everyone! Today we continue to read from the history of the Karmapas. I hope everyone's having a great week so far, despite all the natural problems we are experiencing in 2025. Oh, and Happy New Year to everyone watching my live. Today, another person wished me Happy New Year, and then I realized, oh yeah, it is the new year. A complex political situation as it pertains to the current situation as well. In 1583, the fifth Karmapa passed away. We have a Tanka drawing of the fifth Karmapa. At the end of the funerary rites, the ninth Karmapa oversaw the enshrining of his master's relics in a stupa in Yangpachen and shared the goods of the deceased among the different monasteries of central Tibet and Zhang. The Karmapa then returned to Serpu and stayed in retreat for 1 year in the hermitages above the monasteries. This is the iconic black hat of the Karmapas. Subsequently, Wangchuk Dorje stayed 3 months at the court of the Zhang princes and succeeded in soothing the political tensions of the area. The princes who ran the province of Zhang from their fiefdom of Shigatse were the principal benefactors of the Karmapas. So the Karmapas are also a lineage of Tulkus, however, it was discontinued in enthronement at a certain stage due to political tensions. Since the middle of the previous century, the Zhang princes had called upon the Kagyu patrons to join in their effort to oppose the power of the Lhasa aristocrats affiliated with the Geluk school. However, following in the footsteps of his predecessors, the ninth Karmapa succeeded in keeping out of politics and continued to devote his life to meditation and teaching. Dismayed by the damage caused by the quarrels between different factions, Wangchuk Dorje emphasized the impermanence and death for those who aspire to follow the Karmapas. For those who aspire to follow the Karmapas. They should not be focused on factional disputes. Here are some old photos. And we have the protector, Bernakchen here. Jai Mahakal. Yes, where were we? We are at the ninth. Okay. The power of death and impermanence should stimulate their minds, and they should abandon all worldly acts. To reinforce the role of the Dharma, he further oversaw the restoration of different temples originally built by 2 prestigious Tibetan kings during the 7th and 8th centuries when Tibet was politically united. These restorations were deliberately chosen to illustrate the importance of Tibetan unity and encourage efforts in that direction. Nevertheless, the complex political situation between the Zhang princes and the Lhasa aristocrats would persist until the middle of the 17th century. Emergence of the Dalai Lama. During the life of the ninth Karmapa, there would emerge a great new Tibetan religious leader affiliated with the Geluk school who would profoundly affect the history of the country, the Dalai Lama. In 1576, Altan Khan, chief of the Tumet Mongols, adopted Tibetan Buddhism. He invited Sonam Gyamtso, a master affiliated with the Geluk school, to his court at Hohhota, in the region of the Ordos. It was during this visit in 1578 that the Khan conferred upon him the title Dalai, which is the Mongol equivalent of the Tibetan Gyamtso, signifying ocean. Thus, the title of Dalai means that the knowledge he carries is as deep and vast as the ocean. The Tibetans would add Lama, master, to the title. Sonam Gyamtso was the 3rd incarnation of Gendun Trut, a disciple and nephew of Tsongkhapa. It was decided that the title Dalai Lama would also be conferred retroactively upon the 2 previous incarnations. Sonam Gyamtso thus became the 3rd Dalai Lama. From then on, the Tumek Mongols would maintain strong ties with the Geluk school, which became the preponderant school in central Tibet. The ninth Karmapa met the third Dalai Lama several times, and the two lineage heads maintained an excellent relationship throughout their lives. During Wangchuk Dorje's stay at Sari in southern Tibet, the Dalai Lama called upon him to meditate and arbitrate the violent disputes of the lords of Yarlung. The two religious chiefs succeeded in getting a peace treaty signed, putting an end to the troubles that threatened to destabilize the region. On another occasion, the third Dalai Lama made generous offerings and requested Wangchuk Dorje to perform the black crown ceremony for him. At the end of the ceremony, the Dalai Lama sought permission to touch and don the jewel-studded crown himself. From southern Tibet to Sikkim, Sikkim is now annexed by the Republic of India, but it used to be an independent Himalayan kingdom. The ninth Karmapa finally returned to the south of Tibet for 8 years, alternating between teaching, writing of texts, and periods of retreat. He also arranged for the renovation and construction of sturdy bridges in order to facilitate travel in these inhospitable regions. The abbots of the different monasteries also requested Wangchuk Dorje to confer novice and fully ordained monks' vows on many people. As receiving ordination from the Karmapa was considered a great blessing, even monks from other lineages aspired to take their vows with the lineage head. In addition, he also gave long reading transmissions of important texts of his lineage. In the Tibetan tradition, it is necessary to receive these reading transmissions the lung before studying or practicing them. On this occasion, the master reads the text at such a speed that it is generally impossible to understand it. Certain masters were thus able to conduct the reading transmission of the 108 volumes of the speech of the Buddha in 3 months. That is more than 1,000 pages per day. And this book is just, excluding the footnotes and the appendices, 259 pages. The ninth Karmapa next journeyed to Bhutan, where he stayed 3 months and bestowed blessings and teachings on monks and laity. Subsequently, he was invited to Sikkim, a region in the Himalayan Piedmont nestled between Nepal and Bhutan. At an average altitude lower than Tibet, this country offered the Karmapa a verdant and exotic landscape dominated by the third highest peak in the world, the Kangchenjunga. In this region, where in the 8th century Padmasambhava had meditated in different caves, Buddhism was already widespread. During his short stay in the area, Wangchuk Dorje arranged for the construction of 3 monasteries at Podong, Ralang, and Rumtek. However, once the construction was completed, the Karmapa, then in Tibet, was unable to return to consecrate them, he thus delegated a representative, giving him all the indications, including the precise moment at which to conduct the ceremony. Wangchuk Dorje then carried out the consecration ritual from Tibet at the predetermined moment. This is like Zoom before Zoom, because Ratnashri Center in Chicago actually conducted a Tara Puja for the victims of the earthquake today, and so we are very blessed that these masters are helping us alleviate sufferings of all sentient beings, not just the ones who are in the vicinity, but also in the Himalayan regions. At the very moment the ninth Karmapa was throwing grains of rice in the direction of Sikkim, 3 eagles were seen flying over the Sikkimese monasteries, dropping grains of rice, which were collected and later preserved in reliquaries. A century later, at the advent of the royal dynasty in Sikkim, these 3 Kagyu monasteries would play an important role in Sikkimese society. By strengthening the links between Sikkim and Tibet, the Karmapa greatly facilitated the Sikkimese monks' access to the teachings. These monks did not hesitate to cross the Himalayan peaks in the summer in order to be able to study with the great masters, including the Karmapa. It was also customary for most Sikkimese laypeople to make at least one pilgrimage to the holy places of Tibet, and these journeys also facilitated commercial exchanges. Centuries later, at the beginning of the 1960s, when the king of Sikkim welcomed the 16th Karmapa, who had been exiled from Tibet, Rumtek Monastery became the seat of the Karmapas in exile. The 16th Karmapa later constructed a new monastery near the original that follows the model of Sirpu Monastery, but on a more modest scale. Embalming. At the end of the 16th or beginning of the 17th century, the 9th Karmapa traveled to Mongolia at the request of one of the local lords, Hortu Khan. Here we have a Kala Chakra Tanka Mandala. At that time, Mongolia was divided into numerous small kingdoms with fluctuating borders. As the country slowly began to prosper, its population became more and more interested in the Buddhist precepts being taught by Tibetan monks. Wangchuk Dorje's reputation had reached Hortu Khan and awakened in him a desire to meet the master. During his teachings, the Karmapa constantly stressed the benefits of altruism and nonviolence, being mindful of the ravages that provoked the ceaseless conflicts in the region. To create favorable conditions, he also conducted the Black Crown ceremony. The Khan was so impressed by the profundity of his teachings that he agreed to free all of the condemned prisoners in his kingdom and vowed to observe nonviolence. Toward the end of his life, the 9th Karmapa began to predict his departure from the world and more frequently predicting his own departure. In Tibet, the festivities of the new Water Hare Year or Water Rabbit Year 1603 had just ended when the health of the lineage head, then 48 years old, began to rapidly decline. He left indications regarding the circumstances of his future incarnation in Kham and passed away the next day. His body was embalmed according to the custom and preserved in a stupa, especially constructed inside in one of the temples. The embalming of the body of a deceased master follows a precise ritual. According to tradition, the funerary rites require that the body be placed in the lotus position in a wooden box, decorated with signs of good fortune and covered with brocade. The body is surrounded with salt, which is regularly changed in order to preserve the remains, and the box is exhibited in the principal temple of the monastery. Once the body is entirely desiccated, which can take several months, it is removed from the box and richly dressed with brocade robes, with the faces sometimes covered with a thin layer of gold. Finally, during a special ceremony, it is placed within the heart of a stupa built for the occasion. Nowadays, one can find stupas that display the body of a deceased master behind glass. Concerning these embalming rites, a contemporary master declared, people who are not Buddhists may find this custom of embalming the bodies of great lamas strange, or even think that it denotes a strong attachment to the material world. In fact, there are very profound reasons for preserving the body. Bodhisattvas and great lamas formulate wishes and prayers for all connections established with them to be beneficial, whatever be their form, through sight, hearing, touch, or thought. The embalmed body is one of the methods by which such connections can continue to operate even after the lama passes away. It is also necessary to take into account the habitual tendencies of the minds of ordinary beings. Due to our attachment to material reality, being in the presence of the body will give rise to greater devotion than just thinking of the deceased lama. The more intense the devotion, the more powerful the blessing we receive. These reasons explain the practice of embalming. In 1966, during the Cultural Revolution, the stupa of the 9th Karmapa was destroyed by the Red Guard. The monks were nonetheless able to protect the body and later burned it in the principal courtyard of the monastery. At the end of the ritual cremation, a number of ring cells, little pearls, could still be found at the place of the cremation long after the event. Throughout his life, Wangchuk Dorje wrote a number of works, practice texts, and commentaries on the sutras and tantras that are still authorities in the field. His most famous works concern the practice of meditation according to the Mahamudra. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a very fruitful practice. Om tare tu tare ture mama ayo jana punya pushtu kuruso. It's written here. Bye. How do we end this?